Hey team, this is Nathan from RunDreamAchieve.com. Today's topic, I wanted to go over some of the things I want you to be thinking about as you're training for doing your 240 marathon workouts. Anybody that's trying to run 240 for the marathon needs to be running 606 mile pace or 347 per kilometer pace for the entire distance. So anybody that's trying to run this fast, running 239.59 for the marathon distance, there's nothing easy about it, and it's not to that's not to say that you can't do it. It's just a matter of if you're willing to persist long enough and put in the proper amount of work. There's no reason why you cannot run 239.59 if you want it bad enough, because I say that there's so many people that already know how to work hard, but training smart and utilizing leverage to get better results is something we're not taught often. We're taught how to work hard at work. We're taught how to put in high volume. We oftentimes think that higher mileage is the answer to running a sub 240 marathon. I've seen athletes that I've trained with over the years run a sub 240 marathon on like 40 miles a week. And I've seen other athletes that fail running this fast, running 100 miles a week. So again, it is about what you are putting into your training each week and how you're setting up your training. Like I said, there's nothing easy about running 239.59. Again, you have to have a very high amount of physiological capability. You have to be very strong mentally. You have to have trained properly to get to a point where you're clearing that lactic acid effectively throughout the marathon distance. You have to properly hydrate well in the race. You have to watch your pacing early on in the race and not go out too aggressive. If you go out in a 1:15 the first half, is your goal to break 240 or is it to run 230? Okay, so if your current best is 255 and you're trying to run 239, it's not wise to go out at 115. You're going out far too aggressive. And yes, there are athletes that go out and they just hit that perfect workout where all the stars align and they hit that every single, you're in a flow state and you hit the first half marathon and say 115 and you come back with a 125 and you run a 240 or maybe just under 240. So it is possible to go out much more aggressive than you need to be going out and still run that 239.59. But again, you want to be smart. You want to run a negative split rather than trying to run a positive split in an attempt to run a marathon this fast. And there are so many athletes that are out there that are like, if you're on the letsrun.com message board, you see a lot of people just talking smack, saying negative things about athletes that run a 240 or 239 marathon. They don't it's strange because they don't even think that's a very fast time. And it's the same types of people that are have never run even remotely close to that fast that say a 240 marathon isn't very fast. If you're trying to break 2 hours and 40 minutes, you had better have put in a ton of long runs, speed training. Your tempo runs have better be on point. You better be extremely strong mentally. You've got to do a lot of things correctly to run a marathon this fast. And so I always scratch my head wondering why these individuals are saying, a sub 240 marathon is slow. If they're comparing a 240 marathoner to somebody that's run a 202, there are so few people that can run that fast for the marathon distance. And I don't think that a lot of athletes realize how difficult it is just to break a 3-hour marathon, let alone a 239.59 marathon time. So main thing to do as you're building up you're doing your training, focus on the positives. Surround yourself with people that are going to take you to the next level, that are going to hold you accountable. If you don't have people around you to hold you accountable, then you have to motivate yourself. Write down your goals. Make sure you're putting in consistent work. You are not going to run a sub 240 marathon and do the 240 marathon workouts properly if you don't have a very, very high amount of motivation and drive and focus. This is not a marathon time that people that are just interested in average, that are just kind of working out 3 to 4 days a week, that are going to be able to run this fast effectively. Can you run 3 to 4 days a week and still run a 240 marathon? it's still possible, but you probably have a mixture of, you know, talent and also a very, very high work ethic to be able to do such a thing. I personally couldn't run this fast for a marathon, running 3 to 4 days a week. I think you really have to be all in. You can't just be interested. You have to be fully committed to run a 240 marathon. And sometimes just hearing this from somebody that's, you know, I've run 2:19:35 for the marathon myself, but I've had a lot of failures along the way. Just sometimes just hearing it from somebody that has done what you're wanting to do, and to hear the mindset that goes into it, I think even the mindset is even more important than the physical training. Yes, you have to train well. You have to do longer tempo runs. You have to do faster, varied pace long runs. I teach this in all my courses, all the videos that I've created here. I always talk about doing a faster, varied pace long run, followed the next week by an easy, relaxed jog long run. Again, recovery and the point where because your body's 2 to 3 times weaker after you do a hard workout, it's absolutely critical that you pay attention to recovery. Make sure you're jogging on easy days. Make sure you're giving yourself a minimum of 24 hours, but preferably 48 hours of recovery between each hard workout you're doing. 1 Vo2 Max workout per week you need to be doing, 1 tempo run each week, and 1 long run. Those are the three key workouts you need to be doing. To run under 2 hours and 40 minutes, you're going to have to spend a longer portion of time doing those tempo runs in say around the 5:30s to 5:50s mile pace. Okay, the reason why I say that is because, again, to get 6:06 mile pace to feel easier, you have to run much faster for a longer period of time. You have to get out of your comfort zone and not, you know, like I said, 3 to 4 mile tempo runs are very strong, are very effective, especially for athletes that are trained for like the mile up to the 10K. But if you're training for the half marathon or marathon distance, longer tempo runs, spending a longer duration amount of time at your training at your anaerobic threshold is critical, because we're racing at that particular effort. You're running right around 90 to 92% of your maximum heart rate when you're running at your anaerobic threshold. When you do that 1 Vo2 Max workout per week, Vo2 Max is your maximum oxygen uptake. It's the point where you're running so fast, so aggressively, you cannot clear the lactic acid faster than it's building up. This is the reason why when you're doing those repeat 400s or repeat 800s, or you're doing the repeat thousands on the track, you can only run so many seconds or so many minutes at those particular efforts before you have to take a break. You know, we need that. But again, what's critical about doing Vo2 Max workouts, 1 Vo2 Max workout a week, and doing those longer tempo runs at your anaerobic threshold point is, again, it's going to create your ability to clear lactic acid fat more effectively and sustain race pace for a longer period of time, and preferably longer than your competition. And so that you're slowing down less than your competition. You're teaching the body to burn what it has much more of, and that is fat storage. We don't have a high amount of glycogen storage or carbohydrate storage stored up at any given time. We have a great deal of fat storage. So if you can train the body to burn what it has more of and to conserve what it has less of, you're going to be able to call upon that glycogen and that carbohydrate storage at the later stages of your race in the marathon. And because you've utilized what you have much more of in the first 20 miles of the race, and that's the fat storage. So you want to be able to call upon that and to be able to maintain and even increase your pace in the last 5 kilometers of the marathon distance. And like I said with other marathons, if you're in other videos, to run a marathon this fast, you have to do everything correctly, and you have to take things seriously in terms of your hydration. If you're not drinking enough in the race, watch any athlete that's a professional in this particular event. Those athletes that are running under 2 hours and 40 minutes for the marathon, they're very, very well prepared, not only physically, but they're very strong mentally. But they also know the importance of nutrition and hydration. They're not just sipping in the race. They're making sure that they're grabbing their water bottles and they're drinking enough fluid throughout the race. That's a common mistake a lot of athletes make in trying to break a 240 marathon. They're running far too aggressive too soon. So they're going too anaerobic too soon in the race, and they're paying for it in the latter stages of the race. They're not hydrating enough. They're not taking enough of those gels. Take 3 to 4 gels in the race when you're running your marathon, because that's an immediate 100 to 150 calories of sugar that's going right into your bloodstream when you're racing. So make sure that you're ingesting obviously some water with those gel packets when you're in your race. So again, it's much more fun to run a marathon when you've done everything correctly. You've set up your training, you've done either an 8, 12, or 16-week block of training. You built that strong base of aerobic base mileage first before you started building into your build-up. You did a 10-day taper rather than a 3-week taper. Do a 10-day taper. If you've never tried this in the past, start doing it now. Start in your next build-up for your marathon. Because a lot of athletes, and I'm not saying a 3-week taper doesn't work for a lot of athletes, because it does, but I think that, in my case, I PR'd from every distance from the 5K up to the marathon distance using a 10-day taper. And the reason why is because you don't start dropping your volume and your intensity too far out from your main race. And so you want to work harder in the last few weeks of your build up. You don't want to work less, but especially when you get to that point when you're 10 days out, that's the point when you do want to start backing off your volume, dropping your volume, around 60%, and then obviously resting more and just rehearsing, because at that point you've done all the hard work. So it's about maintenance. At that point, make sure that you're rehearsing mentally. You're seeing yourself doing what you want to do before it occurs. That is very powerful. You're training the subconscious mind to do what you want to do. And like I said, anybody that's trying to run 2:39:59 is an incredible, very disciplined, very hardworking, talented athlete. And even if you don't have a lot of talent, your work ethic is making up for that lack of talent that you have. I myself, I didn't have a great deal of talent myself. I trained for several, almost 3 decades before I got to a point where I could run, 2:19:35 for the marathon. So I had many, many setbacks myself. So I relate to every athlete that watches my videos, whether you're a total beginner, you're overweight, or you are, you're extremely fit and you are a very well-versed veteran of the sport. I think first you have to, again, build your 3 to 4 week of base mileage first, then start working in your specific training plan. Whether that's, on here on RunDreamAchieve.com, I have 8, 12, and 16-week training plans. I have running courses for athletes that are trying to break, a 2:30 marathon. I have a 3-hour marathon course. I have a 4-hour and a 5-hour marathon course that's available to athletes that are seeking to break these barriers. So I hope this video was helpful for you. Like I said, sometimes there's only so many things I can share in each video, but if you watch enough of my videos, you're going to get a little bit of extra information. And obviously, I'll continue to make content that I hope will help you wherever you are in the world, help you guys and gals, get to the next level when you're training. I want more athletes training smarter rather than harder. You do not have to necessarily work harder. You have to work smart to run a 2:40 marathon. Okay, if you're running too much volume at too aerobic effort, you're just going to be a very strong, long, slow distance runner. If you're trying to run a sub 2:40 marathon, you have to focus on the 2:40 marathon workouts that are going to get you to that, across that finish line in 2:39:59. The types of workouts, just in brief, is longer tempo runs, varied pace long runs. So an example of that might be say if you're doing a 16 miler and you're in the middle stages of your build up, you're not quite out to like 23 to 24 miles. Maybe that first 4 miles is easy. Then you go 4 miles at 5:40 mile pace. Okay, so that's again much faster than goal sub 2:40 marathon pace here. And then you run 2 miles easy, then 2 miles at 5:20 mile pace. And then you run the last few miles relaxed. So again, it's varied, and you can change this up in any way you want. That's how I train. The training plans are kind of gradual. We gradually increase the distance, increase the paces of the workouts that the athletes are doing. So it's a tough time. There's nothing, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. If you're trying to run 2:40 for the marathon distance, you have to do things correctly, and you have to do you have to focus on all areas of your preparation, getting proper sleep, hydrating well before, during, and after your workouts, mentally train, mentally rehearse. The best middle to long distance runners don't just focus on physical training. They are highly zeroed in on both the mental as well as the physical component of their preparation. So I want to see you all getting more personal best. So I hope this video was helpful for you, and I will close here, and I will see you all in the next video.